Well, welcome back to the Advantage Line. That's right, your one-stop shop for all things rugby league and NRL. And, well, we're dropping like flies here. As you can see, I'm joined in studio by no one. Carl, he's out of action at the moment. He may be coming off the interchange bench to join us a wee bit later. And we're also minus our Prince of Papamoa, Blake Ashford, who I think is now destitute after Tonga got knocked out of the Rugby League World Cup by Samoa. We'll talk about that game and the other quarterfinals a wee bit later. Blake's pretty much in the same boat as me. I had every single Rugby League multi last week going through Tonga to win. And unfortunately, they let me down. But we do have our good friend from up north, from the Big Smoke, Ben Searle of Surly Talk Sports. Surly, thanks for being the only one to actually join me today.
Yeah, look, Paulie, I don't know if you need to take this personally or what the go is, but yeah, look, Carl, I think it was his birthday yesterday, so he can be excused, but Blake, that's just poor from him. Really cowardly stuff, you know. If you're going to talk Tonga up as $13 favourites to win the cup, you got to come back in once they bow out.
Yeah, but there'll certainly be a number of listeners who would like to just have a wee chat with Blake about his process. Although, to be fair, I was on the same boat. But just, yeah, well, anyway, let's leave that one, put that to the side for now.
Yeah.
And we'll start with the Kangaroos up against Lebanon. And it was the scoreline suggests it was a one-sided match. And Australia probably took their foot off the pedal to a certain extent in that second half. They had the game won. They don't want to pick up any injuries or suspensions before the semi-finals. So 48-4 to the Kangaroos. Your thoughts on that game, Surly?
Yeah, I think like you just mentioned, first half, I thought the Aussies looked really convincing. And then I think second 40, they kind of put the cue in the rack a bit. Plenty of handling errors and a few defensive lapses as well. And I think overall, Meninga probably wouldn't have been that stoked with the performance that they put out for the full 80, but a win's a win. They certainly got the job done. And a few guys stood up as well. I thought Big Tino was outstanding for them throughout the middle, and he's going to be crucial this weekend, taking on that Kiwis pack. And then their second rowers, the ball playing ability they have with Yo, Cam Murray, and Liam Martin, that's extremely dangerous. And then Edo Carr, 5 meat pies. What more can you say about that? And I think one Freddie Fittler would have been sitting at home wondering why he wasn't in the old sky blue earlier on in the year. And I'm starting to wonder that too as a New South Wales fan, because boy, he's red hot at the moment. So, yeah, too good. I thought Moses and Dwayne were really good for Lebanon, but just no one else to go with them. So no upset for Lebanon, but Michael Cheika got that upset a couple days later. So not the worst weekend for him. But, yeah, tough going for Lebanon. But overall, a pretty good tournament from them.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because that's huge from Michael Cheika, coaching Lebanon in a Rugby League World Cup quarter-final. And then it was a matter of days later, coaching Argentina to a rugby union international win over England at Twickenham.
Yeah, pretty crazy. What was it? Saturday morning and then Monday morning. So short turnaround. I don't know how we managed to do that, because they're both pretty big games, but well done to him. And 1 from 2, 50% win rate. Can't scoff at that. The bloke clearly loves international sport of any caliber, so maybe we see him coaching the netball side in the months to come. You never know.
I guess this silly talk by Carl about Josh Adokar not being the best winger in the world. Obviously, the Fox heard this, and he's put that to rest.
Yeah, as we know, a lot of players and coaches in the NRL listen to the Advantage Line. It's their go-to source for information on all things rugby league, and we're pretty proud of that here. So, yeah, Adokar clearly listening in the changing rooms, and he said, Dom Young, hold my beer, 5 of the best, and I think he had 3 or 4 in the first half. So his try celebrations, they're top-notch as well. He's fun to watch.
Just in that forward pack, as you say, Big Tino had a huge game, and he will be a big part of that semi-final against the Kiwis this weekend. Anyone else out of that pack who you thought, wow, really stuck their hand up and said, you cannot not select me, Mal, for the semi-final?
I think Liam Martin was really good, and he was perhaps someone on the fringes. They got plenty of options in the second row with your Angus Crichtons. So I think Liam Martin just showed that he has to be in the mix as well. He's one of those guys. He looks like a bit of a grub. He's tough as nails, and he's into everything. So I thought he maybe cemented himself a spot. And then again, just Yo and Cam Murray, like every week, you know what you're getting from them. But the way Aussie play, they're high speed, they shift the ball early. Those two guys are pretty much more backs, more halves in their team. So they need them in the mix. So, yeah, I'm still not convinced. They're a fairly small pack. So hopefully the Kiwi boys will be licking their lips.
Let's have a look at the Poms and the Papua New Guineans. A similar scoreline, 46-6 to England. They look very good, as they have pretty much this entire tournament so far, the home side. What did you take out of that quarterfinal?
Yeah, I was just a little bit more gutted for PNG, to be honest. Like, I think we're both big fans of the Kummels and the way they play, but that first 30 minutes, I think they were down 38-0, and the game was kind of over from there. England got off to a great start. Tom Burgess, in particular, was destroying them through the middle, and he laid a nice platform, but I was really hopeful PNG could keep this close. Second half got a bit better, but yeah, that first 30 really cost them, and England again showed how good they are in this competition, how much they've been perhaps written off. And Tommy Mankinson, 5 tries. I think he got 5 conversions as well, 30-point haul. So a few wingers kind of putting their hands up and responding to the stats, man. It wasn't Dom Young today. It was the old Tommy.
Unfortunately for Dom, they were passing the ball the other way in that quarterfinal. As you say, the Papua New Guineans, they're a very a good side. Obviously, they're just a tier below those top tier sides, but they'll just get better and better, and they're filtering more players in through the NRL system as well. And that PNG Hunters side can only do them well. So it's the future looks bright, I guess, for the Kummels.
Yeah, 100%. And I think they're one of those sides that could really benefit from that kind of mid-year origin window where we see some more international games, because the more time in the saddle those guys get together, I think they could perhaps be the side that could take a Tongan or Samoan type of leap and really chuck themselves into the top 4 teams in the world. So I'd love to see them play more. They've got a handful of players in there, not in the NRL, that probably put their hands up for some train and trial gigs as well. So definitely a team to watch, and still not a side you want to play, because they'll bash you. Even if they go down, they'll go down swinging.
Where else do we go? We have a look at, well, why don't we have a look at the Kiwis up against the Fijians? And was anyone else having flashbacks to a certain knockout part of a Rugby League World Cup tournament a few years ago? It was getting dicey there for a minute, with first of all the Fijians getting out to a 12-0 lead, and then they were up 18-6. I was certainly thinking, oh no, not again. Searle, were you worried, or did you have the confidence that the boys still had enough gas in the tank to come back?
I was extremely worried, to be fair. After watching the Black Ferns on the Saturday night, I wasn't sure if my heart could handle another close game like that. I sat down on the couch Sunday morning hoping for a nice, calm, enjoyable watch, but I think what we got was anything far from that. Just so many mistakes. We looked not really to have a real game plan on attack. Our defense kind of got towed up. And the one area we pride ourselves on, that forward pack, I thought the Fijians, under strength as well, had real parity with us there. So, shit, I was worried. A good win in the end, though, I guess. You know, you got to win these games and win them tough, but we're going to need to really lift, that's for sure.
I guess one positive out of it, Jordan Rapana had his kicking boots on. He'll be that part of the game will certainly be vital come semi-final time. Do you have the same sort of confidence that Rapana can carry that sort of form through to the semi-final?
Yeah, I think the personal confidence for him would have been huge. I think he had that one penalty out in front to tie the game up or perhaps take the lead, and shit, did he look nervous. He was doing the old water bottle spray. He was getting a bit of a pep talk from the trainer, but he had a great day from the boot. I think he'd reversed the commentator's curse his first nudge. The commentator said there's no way he'll get this, and he slotted it straight down the middle. So it'll be huge for him. It's going to be really important for us this weekend. So he needs to have his kicking boots on again, but he's certainly our kicker. It's good to have that established now, and hopefully he can repeat the dose on Saturday morning.
Well, let's get to what, before the quarterfinals commenced, looked like the match of the round, and it certainly lived up to that. It was a ding-dong battle against the Pacific neighbours. Tonga, who I think were around 3.5, 4.5 point favourites before kickoff. They had a wee bit of momentum coming into that match, but the Samoans were able to turn the tail. Well, were able to upset the favourites in this match. Do you see, I guess, what was the main reason that you saw that the Samoans were able to come out on top in this game?
Yeah, it was a great game to watch. I think right from the challenges at the start, the kind of stage was set, and we knew she was going to be a fiery and passionate encounter, but I think it kind of went up another level to what we even expected. I just thought Samoa used the ball a bit better. They were a bit more adventurous. We had Junior Polo and Papali with the offload game, and then guys like Joseph Suali, Brian To'o just breaking tackles left, right, and centre. So I thought Tonga were a bit too predictable with the ball. Perhaps not the strongest game from Tui Lolohea either. A lot of early kicks. Kind of every set he kicked on the fourth tackle, which was a bit surprising. And then that big question mark we all had, Anthony Milford. He really stood up, man of the match, 3 try assists, and just played that game that a lot of us didn't think he could. He led them around the park, set up quite a few nice plays and nice tries, and yeah, a strong shift from him. So I think that was key to getting Samoa the win.
Yeah, certainly in the halves where it looked before the match a wee bit of I guess, 50-50 as to which halves pairing would have the better of the game. But in the end, it looked like Katoa and Lolohea were totally outpointed by Jerome Luai and Anthony Milford. Certainly Anthony Milford, he had probably his best game in any sort of jersey, I guess, for the last, you could probably say a couple of years now. I don't remember the last time he actually stamped his sort of mark on a game and just said pretty much to the rest of the team, hold on to my jersey, boys. I'll get us through here. He was very, very good.
Yeah, he kind of dived back into that form he had quite a few years back when he was at the Broncos and kind of led them towards a grand final. So it was great to see. I'm sure Wayne Bennett would have been extremely excited watching that, just for his hopes of bringing that type of form out from him next year. I just wonder if that combination, Milford-Luai, just that big game experience really got them across the line. Of course, Luai's been in many big games. Milford has more in the distant past, but still, you take massive learnings from big occasions like that. Katoa's really young. Lolohea, he's been over in the Super League for quite a while now, so I just wonder if that big game experience got the Samoan halves over the line.
Right. We're all done and dusted, quarterfinals. We head now into the semi-finals, and, well, 3 out of the 4 teams before the tournament started, you probably would have said, yep, they're definitely going to make it to the semi-finals. Australia, New Zealand, England. The only other one was probably Samoa or Tonga, a toss-up between those two, and Samoa have come through. The bookies have got the odds out at the moment. Let's have a look at the Kangaroos Kiwis first. The Kangaroos $1.20 head-to-head. The Kiwis $4.33. Kangaroos 12.5 point favourites. The game total is at 43.5. And just to rub salt into the wound, the Rugby League World Cup organisers have decided to book the Kiwis flights home the day after the semi-final, just to save a wee bit of money. I'm guessing that this has given the Kiwis a wee bit more motivation. Not that they need any when they've got a test match against the Kangaroos, but look, if I'm the World Rugby League World Cup organisers, don't I just grab a grand or two, go down to the bookies, put it on the Kiwis to win? If they lose, you've lost a grand or two. If they win, you've got your money to cover the change of flights for the Kangaroos. It's a fairly simple solution, Surly.
Yeah, shit, that's a no-brainer, really, isn't it? I saw they lost 10 grand on doing the same thing for the Samoa-Tonga game. They booked Samoa flights home the day after the quarterfinal, and it ended up costing them 10 big ones. So hopefully they hedged their bet there as well. But yeah, I can imagine Madge will have that up around the sheds, that's for sure. Guys like Fisher Harris, Leota, they'll all be reading the papers and getting really wound up. So fingers crossed it's a good omen. Samoa did it, so hopefully we can do the same thing. But yeah, crazy decision, pretty disrespectful in my book. So we'll see how it plays out.
Well, I guess if we have a look at how these teams are going to line up, Mal, he's gone with, I mean, before the tournament started or halfway through the season, he was saying DCE was the number 7 for the Kangaroos. But it looks like Cleary has jumped over the top of Daly Cherry Evans.
Yeah, for sure. And I actually thought Nathan was a bit out of character on the weekend. He put a few kicks out on the fullness, quite a few conversions as well. So it would have been nice if he'd saved that performance for this weekend, because he's a quality footballer. So I doubt you see that twice in a row. But he looked a wee bit rattled. So wonder if that pressure for competition with DCE's got to him a little bit. But yeah, I think you definitely go with Cleary. He's still the best 7 in the world in my books. Hopefully, though, they mix it up and go with DCE. That would be great for us as Kiwi fans. So, Mel, if you're listening, we really don't want to see Daly Cherry Evans out there. That would be kryptonite for the Kiwis. So, chuck him in the 7.
Another position where Mal will have a decision to make is at the hooker spot. Will he go with the Queensland state of origin tactic of starting with Hunt and bringing our good friend from the Melbourne Storm, Harry Grant, off the bench? Or does he start with Harry Grant and have DCE as the number 14 or the number 24 or the number 34? Not sure which one it is. I just can't quite grasp that one. Which way do you think he's going to go?
Oh, I think personally I'd be going with Ben Hunt to start and then Harry Grant off the bench. We mentioned last weekend against Lebanon, they had that big drop-off in the second half. I think, Aussie's always going to start well. The emotion's high, and Ben Hunt can do a real job for you there. And I think Grant's best when he's kind of injected in around the 25-minute mark. Perhaps the big Kiwi forwards are tiring and he can run amok around that ruck area and look to do his best work. So that's the combination that I'd be going with. It's tried and tested for Queensland, but again, I hope it's not the one he goes with. I would be interested to know, Paulie, what would you go for?
I'd definitely go with what Queensland went with during that State of Origin series. Hunt starting, doing the first 20 minutes or so, and then bringing Harry Grant on, leading him, as you say, run at those tiring big Kiwi forwards. I'm fascinated to see the matchup between soon-to-be former teammates Harry Grant and our good friend Brandon Smith. That looks to be an absolute huge one, and I think it will go a long way to deciding who comes out on top in this game. If Smith can outpoint Grant for most of the game, I think the Kiwis got a big chance of winning. I'm just looking at the Australian backline, and we probably saw what the backline is going to be in that in that quarterfinal. Can't see too many changes. That looked like that Mal had sort of settled on his number 1 backline.
Yeah, and I think most worrying for us is that Latrell Mitchell, Josh Addo-Carr combination with Munster coming down that edge as well. It's pretty deadly, and I think we saw on the weekend out wide we can be slightly susceptible to some good attacks. So hopefully Marata Niokore is back, I think. I saw from Madge, so maybe chuck him into the centres just for a bit of defensive prowess. But yeah, the Aussie backline, it's definitely stacked. I think through the middle is where we really need to target them if we're going to have some luck.
Well, we really need to tighten up our defense if Kevin Naigama can cut through us and score a couple of tries. And he played very, very well for Fiji. Nothing against him, but that's another 2 or 3 steps up with the Kangaroo backline that the Kiwis will be facing. In the forward pack for the Kangaroos, any sort of significant change? Obviously, Fasu and Malawi, he'll be in there somewhere. How do you see that the rest of the forward pack sort of panning out?
Yeah, I think it'll be pretty similar again to what we saw against Lebanon. I saw Mel did mention that Campbell Gillard wasn't eligible last week because he had a few niggles. I wonder if they bring him back into the mix just for some size. But if they don't, I'd love to see, your Leota, Fisher, Harris, those boys really rip into Tino because he's going to be the guy that gets them to go forward. Your Jake Trbojevic and that, they're solid toilers. They'll chip away for the full game, but Tino's the one in that pack that can really bend the line. So, look, if we see a repeat of the grand final performance from those two enforcers, then the Aussie pack could be having nightmares, that's for sure. But yeah, you can never write them off. They're still stacked with talent. You got Cotter, Carrigan, those type of blokes. So they'll put out a heck of a 17. It's really up to the Kiwis and how we rise to the occasion.
Right, let's have a look at the Kiwis then. And I guess, first of all, let's have a look at the back line. And it's almost certain that he'll go stick with Joey in the number 1 jersey. Rapana and Mulitalo probably have the wing spots wrapped up. The centres is probably where Madge has a decision to make. Peter Hiku has probably got one of those spots nailed down. It's who's wearing the other jersey in those centres. Where would you head?
To be honest, I'd probably go with Marata Niokore just for his defense. I'm a big Chance fan, obviously coming to the greatest club in the world next year, the Warriors. So I love watching him play, but I just wonder if he made a few too many defensive lapses on the weekend, a few bad reads, and fell off a couple tackles. So they might go with Marata just to really shore that up, because if there's one thing he can do, it's hit and hit hard. So I think the Aussies would be less likely to target that edge with him there, but you do lose a bit of attacking flair if you take Chance out of the mix as well, because we all know how dangerous he can be with the ball in hand.
The halves sort of pick themselves, Brown and Hughes. So there we move into the forward pack, and I guess it's more of who misses out as opposed to who actually makes it in there, and what sort of mix, and who starts off the bench and who starts. Do you start with both Bromwich brothers in the pack? Do you have one of them coming off the bench? Do you have only one of them in the actual 17? Is there room for someone like a Moses Leota? What about the back row? It'll be fascinating to see what Madge comes up with. Where do you see it going?
Yeah, it's a tough one. Like Jared Waerea-Hargreaves, he's back from suspension as well, playing in his last World Cup, and we know what he'll bring. He'll bring some real aggression and fire. You mentioned Moses Leota. I'm a massive fan of his, especially after that performance he put in for Penrith to win the grand final. I thought he was arguably the best player on the paddock. Got guys like Isaiah Papali'i off the bench in the second row. I think he's too good, and we need to start him. So yeah, there's certainly some headaches there for Madge. They're great ones, though. We're so stacked in the forward pack. We've got so many different options. I think Kenny Bromwich might well get the start still just for that experience, but I'm really interested to see which way he goes. It's going to be interesting.
And I guess, does he keep Foran on the bench as well? Is that some sort of a simple sort of, he gives them cover in the halves. He can also play dummy half if need be, although Brandon Smith, he could play 80 minutes if Madge needed him to, or he could play 80 minutes but just not in the dummy half role for the whole 80 minutes. He could become another prop, sort of how he's been used at times by the Melbourne Storm. So obviously Brandon Smith starts in the 9 jersey, Foran in the 14 jersey. I guess we're still guessing to a certain extent who makes the pack and who doesn't. Britton Nakora, who has been tried at centre during this tournament, there's got to be a spot for him on the bench somewhere.
Yeah, I think you have to have him in the mix somewhere. Just the lines he runs off our halves. He's always dangerous when he gets ball in hand. So I'd have him on the bench. I think you have to have 4 in there just in case Smith gets injured. If you could guarantee he wasn't going to, then I'd love to see us go with a massive bench. But I think you need that contingency plan there, that if something does happen to Smith, then we have someone that can come in and play at hooker. And I thought Foran's been all right, to be fair. He just brings a bit of calmness. He's steady, solid on D. So he's not the worst addition. It's those other 3 bench spots and how he goes with it, because, you know, you got guys like Waria Hargraves, Leota, Nakora, like you mentioned. There's a handful of guys there. Sorensen, he's probably going to miss out, but he was arguably the best bench forward in the NRL this year for Penrith. So there's going to be some extremely unlucky guys that are playing good footy at the moment, missing out from the 17. But again, a great problem to have.
Right, for the Kiwis to win, what needs to happen in this game?
Yeah, I think we need to be on defensively out wide. You mentioned Kevin Nguama. I thought even Taruva as well, the fullback for Fiji, he really terrorised us. He was arguably the best player on the paddock. And this week, James Tedesco will be looking to do the same. And, geez, we all know how quality he is. So we're going to have to be on defensively. And I think we just really need to dominate that middle. Aussie like to play so fast and really lateral. So if we can hit them hard through the middle, slow down that play the ball and not let them get that front foot footy, then we'll be in with a real chance. But if we let them have their way, she could blow out. I think it's going to be either really close or it could get nasty. So fingers crossed we're on the really close side and the Kiwi boys can kind of make Aussie play that game they don't want to play, lure them into our style of footy.
Yeah, I agree with what you just said there, that the Aussies like to play fast and lateral or lateral.
Yeah, big time. Yeah.
And I'm sure he hasn't had the biggest tournament so far. That just worries me a wee bit when it comes to the Kiwis. He's going to have a big one sooner or later, and it's probably it's more than likely it's going to be this week. So defensively, I agree, the Kiwis will have to be right on their game, and that's what will win it. Their defense, their ability to shut the Australians down, their ability to frustrate them. And if you frustrate them, they'll start making mistakes, and the Kiwis can feed off that. But it's a lot easier saying it and writing it down on a piece of paper than actually going out in the field and applying that. But look, the bookies agree. They're 12.5 half-point underdogs, the Kiwis. So they are the most likely team to be on the plane the next day. But stranger things, as we know, have happened in Rugby League World Cups. So plenty to play for both sides. Let's have a look at the other semi-final. And what do we got there? We've got England, who are $1. Oh, actually, they've just disappeared off my page. I think they're $1.33. Yeah, $1.33 the Poms, $3.25 the Samoans. The 7.5 point underdogs, the Samoans, and the game totals at 39.5. Can you see Samoa keeping this one close after remembering what happened very, very early on in this tournament?
Yeah, look, I think they'll still be embarrassed by that performance and they'll really want to come out and make a statement that they have improved as we thought they would throughout the tournament, and they'll want to make amends for that performance. I think huge for them, the skipper, Junior Polo. Of course, he did get suspended the other night, so we thought he was gone. They've kind of overturned that decision now, and he's free to play, so that's massive for them. If he wasn't out on the paddock, then I think it could have been a bit of a cricket score potentially to the English, but Samoan side, when they're firing, geez, they have threats all across the park, and they certainly have the team on paper to push the English. It's just how much of a mental toll that first game took on them, and whether they'll be able to kind of shut down England's threats in front of a massive home crowd, English conditions. It's kind of all stacking up against them, finals footy, but geez, I hope Samoa can do it. It would be so good to see them get through to the final.
Can you see many changes for that Samoan side from the one they fielded in that quarterfinal against Tonga?
Not really, to be fair. I think that was their best 17 that they have available. They've lost a few big bodies in the forward pack, which is unfortunate, but I think they'll kind of run out that same 17 again. Massive as well, Joseph Sorliti. He also got off from his suspension. I think he really needs to look at his running technique, doesn't he? It was mentioned in the NRL a lot, how he raises his knees and shit, it's dangerous as a defender. Get a kneecap to the jaw and you could be on the sidelines for a long time. He was exceptional on the weekend, so he'll be crucial. But I think we'll see that same team again. And yeah, all hopes rely on Anthony Milford bringing out a similar performance.
Harris Tavita was very, very handy off the bench for the Samoans in that quarterfinal as well. Can you see him continuing on with that sort of form as he's about to, I guess, take off on his journey to, I don't know, I think he's going to recharge his batteries, and I think he'll come back hungry for the game after just having that time away. So it may already be having that effect, just the fact that he's got it in his mind. I'm about to have this big break. And he looked like he was playing with a lot more freedom than we actually saw him play for the Warriors towards the end of the NRL season.
Yeah, it's almost, as a Warriors fan, it's a bit of a 50-50, a bit of a shame watching him play because he's playing so well and you just think, man, this kid was so much talent. He's not going to be on our roster next year, but he's just one of those guys, I think no matter how big this stage, he always shows up and puts in a solid performance. He's pretty reliable, so I think he'll continue to deliver what he has been for the Samoans. And look, Samoa have nothing to lose, really. They're clear underdogs at the markets, so no one kind of expects them to pull off back-to-back upsets. So I'd love to see them just go out there and leave everything out there, and I think they will. They're a proud team, a proud nation, and a bit of a chip on their shoulder as well.
Okay, let's get to the hosts, who arguably have looked the best team in the tournament so far. Certainly consistency-wise, I don't remember them having a bad game at all so far. If we have a look up at the makeup of their team, there's a good sort of mixture of NRL and Super League experience in there. Any sort of changes or significant changes that you can see from that quarterfinal side to the one we might see this weekend? Or Dominic Young and Tommy Mackinson's played his way certainly into that wing spot with a 5 for, surely.
Yeah, I think both wingers are fairly cemented in the starting team, that's for sure. It takes something pretty crazy to not select them. In the forward pack, I think that's where they got the better of Samoa in the first game. They made the Samoan forward pack look a bit heavy and unfit. So I think they'll try and bring that tempo that they did to the first game. John Bateman didn't play that first game either, so that's slightly worrying signs for the Samoans because we know how good he can be with his ball playing ability, and partnering up with Radley, that's a pretty dangerous combination. But like, if the English forwards can show up and do a job again, Tom Burgess with another performance like he put in on the weekend, then it could be really hard for the Samoans to go with them. And this England side, they'll just be growing in so much confidence. You do wonder, though, they haven't been tested yet throughout this tournament. So perhaps if the Samoans can really rip into them and rattle them a little bit, then they could watch the English unfold. One can only hope, anyway.
It's possible that they haven't been tested yet because they've been so bloody good.
Exactly.
And if you look at that forward pack, as you say, the likes of Radley, the likes of Bateman, Whitehead, Burgess, that's the makings of a very, very solid forward. In fact, it's better than a solid forward pack. That's a star-studded forward pack. They can muscle up, but they've also got that, I guess, mobile side where if they want to, they can play a wee bit looser, and they don't seem to lose a sort of a step. In the halves, George Williams, who looked okay in his time at the Raiders. In fact, he probably looked better than okay. Yeah. And his combination with Wellesby will be very, very important in this match.
Yeah, big time. And I thought Williams was really good on the weekend again. I thought he really stood up and controlled the game well. And yeah, like you mentioned, that halves battle, it's going to be a good one because there's 4 quality halves out there all trying to lead their side to victory. So it's going to be huge. And yeah, I'm just really excited for this game because geez, again, it could either be really close or a blowout. It could go either way. So fingers crossed Samoa show up, because, man, like, this is the first time they've ever made the semi-finals. How good would it be to see them progress into the finals, knock out the home side, take on the Kiwis in the big dance? That'll be some great stuff.
It'd be absolutely fantastic. You're not really helping punters when you say this could be really close or it could be a blowout, but you're going to have to put your money on the line, because we're going to have a look at some bets for this weekend. Like always, let's start with your best bet for this weekend in the Rugby League World Cup.
Yeah, I think the best bet for me is probably the total in that game, England-Samoa. I noticed it's 39.5. I think there's going to be some points scored. I think both sides are capable of piling them on. So, yeah, there could be a blowout either way, like mentioned. So I like the total there.
Over 39.5 in the English-Samoan semi-final. Nice. Currently $1.85. Look, I'm going to go with the Kiwis. I'm going to take the plus 12.5 at $1.87. I'm hoping that Madge has a master plan, and that he's just been keeping them under a hold for this part of the tournament, and he's ready to release them, let them go. I think we really need to see them chance their arm a wee bit more when they've got the ball, but tighten right up when they're on defense. So I think they can keep this one fairly tight. So I'm going to take the Kiwis plus 12.5 at $1.87. We usually have a best total. You've already given me a total. Have you got another total, or are you going to stick with, you're going to double up on that game total in the England-Samoa game?
Yeah, I will double up on that one. Jeez, made a bit of a mare of that there, but I do like your bet on the Kiwis. I actually had that as my anchor, so I'm all in with you there, Paulie. But yeah, I do like that total. I think Samoa, they'll score some points, and then if it's a 60-6 as well, a real hiding, then you cover it that way as well.
I'll go to that game as well, and I can't see England not scoring a lot of points for my total. So I'm looking to them to score quite a few points at the moment. Oh, it doesn't seem to be up there at the moment. I must have been looking overseas at the time. But I think they're going to be around 23 total points in the game. So I think they can get to around 25, 26. So I'm happy to take England to score over whatever their total points are when we put them up. And I'm fairly sure it'll be around the 23.5, 24 mark. So yeah.
Tell you what, either of the wingers could cover that themselves. They're taking turns at scoring 4 or 5 tries each. So
the way they've been playing, you're right. You mentioned your best anchor.
Yeah, I tucked in the Kiwis at 12.5. $1.87. Like you, I just hope that we've got a lift in us here. I hope that we kind of haven't shown all our cards will rise to the occasion. I think we'll know fairly early. I think the hucker is always a great indication of where we're at, and I think the boys are really going to be fired up and look to rise to the challenge. Aussie have come out already and tried to say that we're the favourites because we're world number 1. I don't think anyone's buying that. And I think this underdog status really suits us. So 12.5's a decent line too.
My anchor multi-anchor, sorry, is the English team head-to-head at $1.33. I think emotionally Samoa really did get up for that quarterfinal against the Tongans, and it's very, very hard to get up emotionally. And just look at the All Blacks this season. They've been able to get up for a number of games. They've struggled to do it back-to-back, though. And I think the Samoans will struggle to get up again the way they did against the Tongans in that quarterfinal. So I'm going to take the English at $1.33 head-to-head against the Lions as my multi-anchor. Your best roughie?
Actually, I have Aussie halftime into New Zealand full time at $12.
Oh.
Hopefully, a repeat from last week. Aussie with a good first 40, but we keep it nice and tight, and then they fall off in the second half. That would be great to see. $12. I think that's great money, and it could be a repeat of a grand final from a few years back when we won the World Cup and came home late with a couple tries. So that would be iconic scene. So fingers crossed the Kiwi boys can come home with some wind in the sails, steal the win, and $12 was too good for me to pass up.
I'm going to have a look at the other semi-final, and it was a 60-point margin the first time these two teams met in this tournament, and it's -7.5 this time. I know when you get to the business end of a tournament, it brings the teams closer together. There's a lot more sort of pressure on, and I'm sure that the English will be feeling a wee bit of pressure being the host. They'll have a huge hometown support for this game. I just can't see the Samoans being able to stick with this English team. I think they really, really are the goods. So I'm happy to take England -22.5 at the alternate point start, which is paying $5.
Wow.
So,
I am a little concerned, Paulie. We started this off with you saying that you shouldn't have gone all in on Tonga against Samoa. It appears like this week you're all in on England against Samoa. Could lightning strike twice?
Well, I certainly hope not. Otherwise, I may not be turning up next week, just like Blake and Carl.
Yeah, cash in the sabbatical. That's well played.
Very much so. Is there anything else you want to touch on before we wrap things up? I know that's been it's almost been a netball fast five sort of podcast for us, quick, smart. But we'll be back next week to preview the Kiwis England final, which is a sort of a final that we're going to see at Eden Park this weekend with the Black Ferns taking on England as well. So anything else you wanted to touch on in terms of not just the Rugby League World Cup, but Rugby League in general?
Yeah, there was one bet that I actually like the look of that I didn't get the chance to slip in, and that's the first try to be converted, a no, in the New Zealand-Aussie game, paying $3.05. Nathan Cleary had his problems on the weekend with the goal kicking. He missed quite a few, and he was a bit out of sorts. And then Jordan Rapana, great on the weekend, but you never quite know. So, look, both teams have been scoring their tries out wide. So if our wingers are to score, it's not an easy conversion. $3, something to ride home early in the game. Hopefully it's off the back of a Mulatalo or Rapana try, and you can really get into it. But I thought that was good odds there.
Very, very not. I'm not sure that I've ever seen Nathan Cleary have 2 games in a row where he hasn't put the kicking boots on. I was kind of hoping that he would have his kicking boots on in that quarterfinal, so that we were a chance of him not having them this weekend. Although, if the Kangaroos don't score many tries, then he won't have many attempts at goal anyway. So once again, we come back to that Kiwis defense, and if they can frustrate this Kangaroo side, that'll go a long, long way to a big Kiwi victory. And I hope that's the case at about 10:45 on Saturday morning, New Zealand time.
Yeah, it could be a real champagne brekkie to kick off the weekend of sport. Tell you what.
How good. Yeah, exactly. Right. Thanks to Carl for not joining us. Thanks to Blake for not joining us.
That was the worst stats Carl's dished up this season, I must say. I was expected to be wowed, but not to be.
Well, at least he'll be 100% with his stats this week. Nothing wrong. He'll be fine.
We've actually got some late mail from Blake in the team chat. Do you want me to quickly summarize what he said through?
Yeah.
He said, New Zealand versus Fiji. If Coruscant had stayed at 6, Fiji hang on to win that game. As soon as he went to 9, the Kiwis scored 2 tries. So he's standing by his call there. New Zealand, Aussie. I'm sure everyone's interested in this. Of course, the patriotic Australian. I give New Zealand a chance. I think how Australia play is what New Zealand know. No trick plays. It's short 10s in this game. The refs aren't holding the full distance. And New Zealand are well drilled. So he gives them a shot at pulling off the upset. So perhaps he's just hedging his bets there, old Blake. His best bet, England half-time, full-time at $1.72. Total, Aussie to win by 21-30. So he's really contradicted his earlier call there. Not much of a chance for the Kiwis. His anchor, England head-to-head. And his roughie, England to 13. $6.50. Don't see those bets losing. So there you go.
Oh, and I see signing off the real stat man, King Punter, Sevo fan lover, hashtag Tigers 2023 champs.
I do wonder if that's why he's not here. Of course, Mike Acevo dished out a couple big fins on the weekend, and rumours are he's had to check himself into an institution because the old PTSD's firing on all cylinders at the moment. So hope you're well, Blake, and no doubt he was nervous on the couch, sweating.
Righty ho. That's it for this week. Shirley, thanks for joining me. You've given us a great insight into what might happen this weekend in both semi-finals. I'm sure you'll be back next week to have a look at the big final. And hopefully we get one or two others in here with us. And thanks to you guys for tuning in and listening to the Advantage Line. Don't forget to tune in again around the same time, where we'll be previewing the Rugby League Big Grand World Cup Grand Final. See you then.